ARD meeting on March 8th at Mitchell Elementary, and this meeting was to set up special education services for a second grade student who had been identified as needing extra support for a learning disability and a speech impairment. In attendance at this meeting was the student and her mother, the assistant principal, who translated for the mother, the student's general education teacher, the special education and speech pathologist of Mitchell Elementary, and the diagnostician for Georgetown ISD. The atmosphere of the meeting was strict, structured, and professional. The diagnostician recorded the meeting for the district's records, and she set up a schedule of things that needed to be discussed at this meeting. The meeting started by reviewing for the mother what services the student currently receives. She is given services and support because she's a bilingual student, as well as a previously identified speech impediment, for which she visits the speech pathologist a few times a week. Next, the speech pathologist and the special education teacher reviewed for the mother where the student struggles in the areas of her speech impairment and her learning disability in reading, writing, and math. Next, the speech pathologist and special education teacher reviewed what services and supports they believe the student should receive based on her test scores and personal observations. The speech pathologist decided that her current sessions with the student were sufficient and that they should continue throughout this year and on to next year. The special education teacher decided that she needed much more support and services in order to improve her scores in reading, writing, and math. In my opinion, I thought the meeting was very intense, but not uncomfortable. It was very professional, and with the diagnostician recording everything, it just felt very official, and everything needed to be stated for the record for the district. The only people who seemed prepared and who had database decision-making were the speech pathologist and the special education teacher. And it struck me as odd that the general education teacher had no input whatsoever in this meeting. She basically just observed the same as I did, and that was it. I felt like there should have been more involvement from the general education teacher because it is her student, and everything that has been decided by the SPED teacher and the speech pathologist would affect her classroom. Though the mother of the student seemed receptive and thankful of all the services that her student would receive, she did seem flustered by the flow of information that was given to her at this meeting. There was a lot of information about her speech impairment and also her learning disability that were just kind of briefly reviewed, and I felt that she didn't quite understand and it just went by really quickly, and she wanted to understand in order to help her student the best that she could. So I thought there could have been much more explanation as to the problems of the student, where she struggles, and how they're going to help her with that, because I think she felt that a lot of the help needed to come from herself instead of the school supporting her. One aspect of the meeting that was really effective was the translation by the assistant principal. I was afraid with the language barrier that myself and the mother would have trouble understanding the details and information of the meeting, but the assistant principal was very supportive in conveying the message to both the mother and to everybody else in the group to make sure that everything was communicated really well between us. I didn't think that at such a young grade and age that you could identify a learning disability as well as a speech impairment in a student that is bilingual. Because I think at one point you have to notice that the problem is beyond the language barrier and that it's much deeper. And I think that is really awesome that the school was able to identify this student so early in order to help her. Overall, I thought the meeting went really well, and I thought it was super interesting to see a student being introduced into special education. And the meeting ended with a really high note when the mom went around and thanked all the people in the room, including myself, for just being part of the process of helping her daughter. And it just reminds me that this is why we spend so much time developing special education, in order to help those students who just need a little bit of help to succeed.